The newest trailer dropped for House of the Dragon, and with it we got a look at some of the events that Season 1 will cover. From what I can tell, most of the season will be spent setting up the conflict that will become the Dance of the Dragons, and ending just before or after the death of King Jaehaerys. But there is one brief moment in the trailer that really caught my eye, and has led me to ask the question, will we see King Jaehaerys Targaryen in House of the Dragon? In the trailer, we see what appears to be the Great Hall at Harrenhal, filled with people taking part in some kind of ceremony. We know that the Great Council of 101 AC plays a role in the setup to the Dance of the Dragons, and really explains where the conflict between the two sides comes from. Now, I have seen it argued maybe it's a scene with an army being rallied at Harrenhal for either the Blacks or the Greens. And while we do know at points during the Dance of the Dragons, Harrenhal is garrisoned by both the Greens and the Blacks, I'm not really sure the timeline fits with what we know the first season is supposed to cover. There was also a shot with a chest being carried down the Great Hall, which, if I'm honest, is a bit of a mystery and potentially could point towards it being not the Great Council. However, there are a few things I think could be in the chest. Maybe it's Jaehaerys' crown being carried down the Great Hall to him for a ceremonial purpose. The other idea I had is it could be Corlys Velaryon's arrival, with his men carrying the chest, in it bribes he intends to pay off lords with for their vote to claim the throne. However, I'm not sure Corlys would be so open about bribing lords, but I guess it could be seen as a statement of his wealth. I have also seen it suggested that there are dragon eggs in the chest, but I'm not really sure what purpose that would serve. Great Council of 101 AC is something I've always hoped we would get to see in House of the Dragon. Looking at the set photos that have leaked so far, we get a general idea of the time frame the first season of House of the Dragon seems to cover. This could be narrowed down even more when you consider the ages of the actors cast and the fact that young Rhaenyra and Alicent will be shown on screen. To me, this suggests the show will begin in the time period just after, or maybe a little before, the death of Aemma Arryn, and we will see the relationship between Rhaenyra and Alicent develop, as well as that of Rhaenyra and Daemon. Now, there is a key event that happens many years before this, all the way back in 101, which is the Great Council, to determine who would be the heir of Jaehaerys Targaryen, the old king whose heirs developed a bit of a habit of dying young under tragic circumstances, leaving a situation where there is no clear heir. The council was called to judge the case of all the claimants, with the lords of the Seven Kingdoms voting on the claimant they felt had the best case. The council was the largest ever called, and took months for all the lords to assemble in the halls of Harrenhal, with a camp set up around Harrenhal, becoming the second largest population centre in Westeros for a time. So if you're not familiar with Fire and Blood, and the lore the show is based on, this council was a vital part of the Dance of the Dragons, and in many ways is the fuse that lights the flames of the Civil War. Basically, when Jaehaerys is left without a clear heir after the death of Balon, and Vaegon then turning down the crown, the Great Council is called to decide succession. After many lesser candidates are voted out of the running, you're left with two claimants. Princess Rhaenys, the only child of Jaehaerys' eldest son Aemon Targaryen and Jocelyn Baratheon. Princess Rhaenys would have been about 27 years of age at the time of the council, and had children with her husband Corlys Velaryon. The other claimant, Viserys Targaryen, the son of Jaehaerys' second son Balon, who was at this point dead. The argument came down to Viserys being chosen as heir due to Princess Rhaenys' gender, with it being decided that the son of a second son would take precedence over the daughter of the elder son. However, it should be noted neither of their fathers were ever crowned king, which is what makes the succession rather muddy. I will be doing a longer video about the succession and Lords of Succession in Westeros in the coming weeks. This would then leave a bit of a bitter taste in Rhaenys and Corlys' mouth for many years. Later, the whole reasoning of marrying Rhaenyra to Corlys and Rhaenyra's son Laenor was to join the two rival claims together and bring House Velaryon back into the fold, with Viserys naming Rhaenyra his heir. However, the situation with the king's eldest son Aegon being born, and Aegon then technically being his heir as set out by the presidents of the Great Council, would negate the bridging point of the marriage of Rhaenyra and Laenor, again creating two rival claims and thus leading to the Dance of the Dragons. In a way, it put out one fire, only for a bigger one to start. The Great Council really gives context to why the Dance of the Dragons became inevitable, and why both sides, the Blacks and the Greens, believe their claimant is the rightful ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. It comes down to if you believe that Viserys' heir is his named heir in Rhaenyra, or Aegon via the precedent set out by 101. So that is why I hope and believe we will see the Great Council of 101 on screen in House of the Dragon, and is that is being shown in the trailer. It not only explains the political situation at the start of the show, it would help casual viewers get up to speed with the political situation and the major players, and allowed them to make an informed decision on who to support, Rhaenyra or Aegon. In my mind, showing the Great Council is vital in setting up the narrative of the whole show. They could do it without physically showing the council, however I feel the best way to convey the information and the cleanest is by showing it, which is what I think the trailer is suggesting. I don't think House of the Dragon would spend that much time in this era. They will want to get right into the meat of the plot and get things moving along. I suspect if the Great Council is shown, it will be in a flashback, maybe at the start of an episode, similar to how the main show handled Maggie the Frog and Cersei's flashback, or maybe the first scene in the show as a setup, similar to when the Night's Watch encounter the White Walkers beyond the wall at the start of the books and show. I think it will be brief but serve a purpose, and I think the scale of the scene will create a dynamic visual spectacle needed to grab the viewer. But if it is in fact the Great Council of 101 shown in the trailer, I think this means there is a very real and strong possibility that we will in fact get to see King Jaehaerys in live action, presiding over the council. It would not really make sense and would not work without him. I know this may not seem like a big deal or an important detail, but for fans of Fire and Blood, Jaehaerys is a great and interesting character who leaves a lasting impact on Westeros with the work and reforms he undertook during his long reign. So it would be a nice moment for the hardcore fans of the source material, even if it is only a short scene. Do you think the Great Council will be seen in House of the Dragon? And what small obscure event from the Dance of the Dragons are you hoping to see on screen? And finally, do you think we have a shot at seeing Jaehaerys on screen as well?